fatal heart impacts, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're just freaked out. Get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, whenever we last left off with this series, Izuku Midoriya, at the age of 10 years old, he stole a very high-class muscle car as a part of his training, then using that very car to escape a police chase, and dropping it off at a location, turning it in, and opting to keep the vehicle whenever presented with the idea of keeping the vehicle or selling it and trying again. Now, Midoriya currently used some of the money that he has obtained from his own bounties to pay for car modifications. Now, obviously these modifications, they're not legal, meaning that Midoriya can literally do whatever he wanted to the car. Bulletproof glass, reinforced frames, and steel-lined doors, meaning bulletproof doors, along with actually bulletproof tires. There's a whole host of things he could do. But we are not talking about the car. We are talking about the character. Now, we do have 2 years later, and Izuku Midoriya is now somewhat of a popular person. Everyone knows about everything he has done with his mother, Isla Carter. And Midoriya is considered to be the top-ranking student in their assassination program, or their Hitman program. Now, we do currently have Midoriya. Instead of taking a job where he would go outside of the facility and head to a Continental, today he is actually going through some more training, as he actually is handcuffed with his arms behind his back, and he is in a wooden chair. Now, the person who's supposed to be interrogating Midoriya is actually informed about what they can actually do to him. As long as they don't break any bones or cause too much massive bruising, they can interrogate him, as it is told. However, if Midoriya is able to break free, the two are going to have to fight. That being a part of the rules that they did not cover, since obviously you are going to try and escape whenever you are trying to be interrogated. Now, Midoriya is still standing there, as his back is towards the glass wall that the teachers and other students will be watching through. And Midoriya, he is sitting there with duct tape on his mouth and his arms, well, handcuffed. As the person is informing Midoriya, as they do actually go to pick up a blade, that he has done something that they need to know about. Now, the entire scenario has already been laid out for them. Midoriya has the codes to a safe, and that safe does hold the recipe for disaster, as you will call it, or information you were sent to retrieve. And this person Midoriya is playing is not supposed to hand over the information to the other kid's character, as they actually do pick up, let's say, a metal pipe, and try to intimidate Midoriya. Them asking exactly if Midoriya is going to give up the information. And Midoriya doesn't even really respond. And the kid just keeps going on, as he actually just dropped the pipe onto Midoriya's leg, hitting down on it. And Midoriya actually somewhat lurched forwards, somewhat hurting, as the kid begins to try and interrogate Midoriya, ripping the duct tape off his face and beginning to scream at him. Eventually the kid beginning to beat Midoriya in his face, and even breaking his nose. Now, With that being said, we will cut back to a few minutes before, whenever Midoriya was actually hit in his leg and he lunged forwards. Midoriya already dislocated his right thumb, and whenever he had to, he used that movement to slip his hand out from the handcuffs, before putting his finger back into the joint. And he did actually somewhat just stay there, bringing the right cuff into his left hand, and spinning it around to where he can actually use it as his own weapon. Now, the kid Midoriya is talking to is actually someone who does not like Midoriya, and they're taking a whole lot of enjoyment out of this exercise, beating Midoriya across the face and actually punching him in the gut, until the kid actually does turn his back to Midoriya, as he does actually try and inspect the weapons he's going to use next. There's a baseball bat, there's this weapon, and this weapon, and there's even a screwdriver. Technically, he's not supposed to use these sharper weapons or stabbing weapons. However, this is an exercise. And in an exercise, he needs to get the information he needs. Him going to grab the screwdriver and going to spin around, as Midoriya does one thing. Using the metal pipe, he smashes the kid into his side, and does actually lunge at him, using the handcuff and handcuffing his right arm or his right wrist to Midoriya's left wrist, as to put them together. As soon as that did happen, Midoriya immediately began to beat the kid across the face, and the two began to go back and forth. Now, it was very difficult to only using one hand. However, both these two immediately begin going into martial arts, both of them going into judo, and trying to fight against each other. However, Midoriya, as long as he holds on to the metal chain of their handcuffs, he does at least maintain control over the person's arm. And Midoriya, it actually did get to the point where these two began to throw each other around the room. The boy's quirk is useless in the situation. However, Midoriya, he actually does have the upper hand here, as he actually just smashed the kid up against the wall and pin him by his throat, putting as much force into it as he can as the kid still tries to fight against Midoriya, as they do bring their hand up and try and claw away at Midoriya's face, being able to do so as Midoriya brings up his left hand and punches them directly in the nose. Now, the kid goes falling to the ground, as Midoriya pops his left finger or his left thumb out and slips out of the handcuffs, before walking over and looking to see exactly what was in his file, before getting the key he was supposed to get. Technically, it's the handcuff key, but technically, he also did escape already. Meanwhile, on the other side of the glass, we do have Isla, who has watched her son grow. And many other kids were watching Midoriya do this. He waited until he had an actual opening, and that's what makes him more dangerous than everyone else. Midoriya can rationalize in his head the right time to attack. For some reason, he's calmer but also more violent than anyone else they've ever met. So, it was quite interesting. And then there was the director of this little facility, who watched Midoriya with great interest, as they did want to assign a mission to Midoriya, wondering if he would be ready. Now, we do actually cut to after everything has been said and done. The kid's taken to the medical facility in their facility, or the medical ward in their facility now. Midoriya also does head there, finding that he only has a broken nose and a couple bruises and scratches, along with cuts. Now, with that being said, he then actually does head off to another class, as he does bring along a specialized weapon he loves, a .45 handgun, along with a .44, a .38, and let's say a .22 rifle. Now, Midoriya, he's going to his Marksmanship class, and everyone is supposed to bring along at least a few guns. Now, Midoriya and everyone, they actually do take aim as they are on the range. Midoriya bring his gun up, and actually at least bring up his left arm to somewhat brace his right arm, or his right elbow, as Midoriya actually has begun to fire the gun. Now, this is actually kind of intriguing, and people do actually watch Midoriya fire the .22. Now, Midoriya is firing this rifle with both hands, and he's actually doing it very well. As soon as he fires a shot, he quickly reloads, then fires another one, before bringing the target closer to him. And you can see that he is almost a perfect marksman. The gun is a bit too light for his own sake. However, Midoriya can still hit a target from over 100 to 200 yards. Now, there's also whenever he does actually begin to fire off the 45. Him using both hands and firing, as everyone's very intrigued. And they do actually ask Midoriya if they can fire that weapon. Midoriya allowing them to. However, he does warn them that they don't just yank the trigger, and to be ready for a whole lot of recoil. Now, they actually do this, and the kid who does fire Midoriya's handgun does actually get sent somewhat moving backwards, as the gun almost bunts them in the face. Now, other kids do begin to laugh. However, there is actually the teacher, who states that they really should not be laughing. They should understand exactly how powerful that individual handgun is, as he does pull out a giant .44 Magnum, aiming down range and pulling the trigger. They might all be wearing earmuffs, but even the sound of that bullet going off was loud. The bullet going down range and smashing through its target, before also embedding itself in the concrete wall. The man then firing off 5 more shots, as his arm does not even budge a single inch, before he does actually unload the shells, or the casings, and state that this is a .44 Magnum. It has a very high recoil count, just like that handgun the kid is currently holding, saying that with his super strength quirk, he doesn't have to worry about recoil. However, it's really just the noise that would bother him. Asking if somebody else would like to try and fire off bigger weapons like that handgun or his handgun. Other kids attempting, and failing. Now, there is also in Midoriya's training class, as they are paired up to go against different disciplines. Midoriya on his own team, with roughly about 3 to 4 other people. And we do actually have a group of people who still do not like Midoriya. They've grouped together, and Midoriya is actually somewhat waiting, as he does actually step onto the mat. And he's ready. Now, let's see. What would be an interesting quirk to use for this scenario? Alrighty. Let's say that the kid's quirk is stone legs. So, the kid's quirk allows him to maintain where he is standing, and basically become a wall. Now, it is different from a traditional hardening quirk. However, it does still seem to be very effective. Now, with that, Midoriya actually does go to face off against this kid, who does seem to be a bit, well, leaner than Midoriya. However, he also does seem to be a bit more top-heavy with the amount of muscle on him. Now, Midoriya and him actually do both bring their hands up, both their hands wrapped, as they are told to begin. Now, Midoriya actually just wait a second, as the kid doesn't even really move. And Midoriya, he begins to, well, move to the right, while the kid actually is beginning to move to his left. Him making sure that one foot is always on the mat. Where Midoriya, he's doing footwork, being a bit more light on his feet. Before, as soon as Midoriya does actually go to rush forwards, the kid does stop. Both feet on the mat, as Midoriya actually rushes in and goes to punch him in the face. As soon as Midoriya does that, the kid actually does bring up his left hand, and sock Midoriya directly in his own. This actually surprises Midoriya, as the kid, he says that Midoriya, he is quirkless, right? So I guess this is going to be an easy match for me then. Well, I'll tell you my quirk. As long as both my feet are touching the ground, I'm immobile. In fact, I might as well weigh as much as a brick, or weigh as much as a wall. Nothing can move me. Now, with that, the kid actually does go to move forwards, one leg on the mat at all times, and the other one ready to immediately stomp down. As Midoriya actually does take notice of that. Before he actually does, wait for the kid to throw out his arm. The kid throws out a right hook, and Midoriya, he's able to dodge it as it goes past his face. Midoriya rushing in and actually closing the gap immediately, as he actually does bring his hands up and wrap them around the kid, locking his hands together on the other side of the kid's shoulder as he does actually pull him. Now, he's basically putting his hands right in between the, side of his neck and onto, I want to say, the area by his shoulder, as he does actually pull the kid in and immediately jab his knee directly upwards into the kid's guts, or into the side of his ribs. As he then also does do one thing. As soon as he does actually do that, he uses his right leg and wraps it around the kid's own leg, before pulling him upwards and slamming him down onto the mat. The kid being hurt extremely bad. As Midoriya, as soon as he does do that, goes to actually grab the kid's arm and put him into a hold. Now, Midoriya does have his legs wrapped around the kid's arm and holding his right arm, or his left arm, so that he cannot escape, as Midoriya tells the kid to tap out, or to give up. The kid trying to get back onto his feet, and not listening to Midoriya. The teacher telling the kid that he should really give up, and the kid getting very impatient, before actually trying to move, or at least get Midoriya out of the mat, so that they can win the match. As they do actually try and move Midoriya, or at least get him up, they're able to use their left arm to somewhat get onto their feet. As soon as they do that, Midoriya actually just watches this scrawny kid begins by slamming his arm down onto the mat, and using his left arm to punch Midoriya. Now, Midoriya is still holding on to the top part of his bicep, or the part of his joint in his other arm, as the kid still tries to punch away at Midoriya. And Midoriya, he actually just wrap his legs more around it and try and get a tighter fit, as he actually is beginning to pull with his back into the kid's arm. This actually not only beginning to hurt the kid, but actually beginning to, hurt a lot of things in his body. And the kid actually does still try and beat Midoriya down, even trying to slam him out of the mat. However, Midoriya, not only does he keep yanking his body weight, but trying to stay in control of the situation. As after the kid does fall back to the ground, Midoriya actually does do one thing. He snaps the kid's arm out of sockets and pulls it out, as the kid begins to scream. And Midoriya actually does get back up, with not only a more tattered face, but with somewhat of a bloody smile, as he may have some form of internal bleeding. Now, Midoriya and the kid are both told to head to the infirmary, And Midoriya, he's sent there twice in one day. Now, his injuries do seem a bit more severe. However, Midoriya explains to the person in charge of this infirmary that they'll just heal in a few weeks, just like they did last time. Geez, I don't know why they keep making you fight kids with quirks. Then again, I don't know how you still keep winning. Well, I got something that they don't. And what would that be, young man? Midoriya is suddenly just turning and saying rage. Now, he says that in somewhat of a eerie tone. The way he said it was serious enough to cause a bit of concern. However, there's also the way his voice was. Midoriya somehow sounded innocent at the same time. And that's what that's what this person found to be very creepy. Now, with that all being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. And have an amazing night. I will catch you guys in the next part.